If you've run an ad agency for any length of time, you know that not all revenue is profitable. And this becomes apparent when you've got a lot of projects. Some of them are taking a lot of time, some of them are taking just a little bit of time. And for some reason, you're still not earning a net income. Agencies that don't understand the profitability of each project or client relationship don't know which projects and which clients are driving their profits. Agencies need to be very diligent about tracking their time and reporting on their client and their project profitability. I find that smaller to mid-size agencies have a lot of success implementing a client profitability analysis or a project profitability analysis, which all starts with tracking time and determining a fully loaded cost rate. The trick to determining a fully loaded cost rate, okay, starts with allocating overhead across your employees, and you have to pick something. And the most logical thing to pick, the easiest thing to pick, is either base salary or total compensation. So I usually recommend that agencies use total comp. They need to get all of their employees' salaries, and then they need to estimate the number of direct hours or client hours that they expect each employee to work. Then they need to go in and they need to allocate all the overhead, all the other costs of the business that are not included in salary, like your rent, your insurance, and all that other gunk that you have to pay monthly, your software subscriptions. Okay, all of these things then need to be allocated across all of your employees. And you do that by allocating a little bit more to the folks with higher salaries and a little bit less to the folks with lower salaries. This gives you what we like to call a fully loaded cost. So how do we get to client hours? Well, that's a great question, okay? You know that there's 2,080 available hours in a year. That's 40 hours a week times 52 weeks per year. Now, you know your folks have to take some vacation time, okay? You know that your folks are gonna have a week or so of sick time, hopefully not more than a week. Your folks are gonna have to have some training. There's gonna be some admin time. There's gonna be various things that you need to take off of that 2,080 hours to get to your total client hours. The standard that we see in the industry across agencies and other professional services firms is typically 1,800 hours for kind of a employee that you would call one that's fully client facing. Once you have this fully loaded cost per each employee, you divide by the expected number of client hours, and that gives you your hourly cost rate. This isn't a bill rate, this is a cost rate. This is what it costs for that employee to work for 1 hour. So now, when that employee works for 1 hour on project A or client C, you know exactly what that 1 hour costs, and accordingly, you know that you need to charge more than that. One pitfall that I see with this approach is folks will go in and they'll start to determine how many client hours they expect out of each employee. And they'll say, well, yeah, you know what? But we have these weekly meetings that we have. And you know what? We're in there, we're talking about all our clients. So we can't really call that client specific time. But remember, when you're reducing the number of expected client hours, okay, you're increasing your cost rates. And eventually, you can get your expected client hours so low that your cost rates are so high that you're artificially pricing yourself out of client work. Once you've established your loaded cost rate for each one of your employees, okay, now it's about tracking their time so that you understand how they're spending their time each day. The biggest mistake that I see agencies make is not requiring their team to track their time. New agencies especially, right? They're trying to shake things up. They're trying to be disruptive. Hey, we don't bill by the hour. Hey, that's fine if you don't want to bill your clients by the hour. I get that. Time tracking is not about micromanaging your team. It's about fostering accountability and thoughtful allocation of resources. If you ran a manufacturer, I guarantee you would know how much each little widget that you had in your warehouse cost your company. What if you ran a Bentley dealership? You would know how many Bentleys you had on your lot. Probably if you ran a Prius dealership. Tracking time is the exact same thing. For an agency, Hours are inventory. Without that time data, you don't have the information you need to understand which projects are profitable and which ones are not. With that said, your folks are now tracking their time. At the end of the week, at the end of the month, at the end of the quarter, you can now go in and say, okay, well, Bob and Sue spent X number of hours on project A, and Bob's cost rate is $150 per hour, and Sue's cost rate is $225 per hour. You multiply the hours they worked on that project or that client times their cost rate, and that tells you how much you've spent, more or less, or what delivering that work product to that particular client cost your agency. Once you've identified which clients are not profitable or which projects are not profitable, right? It's now about analyzing, how did we get here? Did we not estimate the project correctly? Did we not scope the client correctly? Did we let the client pack a bunch of other items in there that we had not originally scoped? One place that I see agencies make a pricing mistake is they often fail to include a contingency, right? Anybody who's building a house adds an extra 10% for who knows what. And the who knows what might be the client changes their mind, or the who knows what might be a rainy day. Well, agencies need to do the exact same thing when they're pricing a project or a client relationship. We think it's going to take us 500 hours to complete X, Y, and Z deliverables. Okay, well, great. Add an extra 50 hours in there, some CYA hours. It's just good business. We see it all the time. Clients come to us, they bring us their P&L, and they're trying to understand where they're making money and where they're losing money. And by implementing a profitability or margin by client or profitability or margin by project tracking system, okay, in each and every case, our clients have found the outputs extremely insightful. And they've been able to understand which projects they need to shy away from in the future and which clients they need to either reprice and where they need to reallocate their resources across their agency.